Alex Eala had just stunned the entire WTA. The internet and the world were buzzing. Almost overnight, a billion-dollar scandal exploded online, pulling in celebrities, billionaires, and millions of fans. Suddenly, the biggest name in women's tennis wasn't being talked about for what was happening on the court. It was all about the conversations happening off of it. And the truth is this: the real story is infinitely more dramatic than the fiction. When the dust settled, what was revealed was more than just a scandal. It was a cautionary tale, a mirror held up to the world of fame, social media, and the dark machinery that profits from building an icon. This is the full story. And if you think you already know it, you don't. To understand how a billion-dollar scandal with Alex Eala's name on it could completely break the internet, you have to understand who Alex is, who Eala really is, and what she represents to an entire nation. Born on May 23, 2005 in Quezon City, Philippines, Alexandra Maniego Eala is not just another player. She is a tennis prodigy, a sensation, the kind of athlete that comes along once in a generation, not just for her country, but for the sport itself. By the time she was 20 years old, she had already done things no Filipino tennis player had ever accomplished. She became the first Grand Slam champion from the Philippines, winning the junior girls singles title at the US Open in 2022. While the rest of the tennis world watched in awe, she became the first Filipino to crack the WTA Top 100. The first to defeat multiple top 5 players at the tour level, and the first to reach a WTA 10,000 semifinal. And by 2026, she had reached a career-high world ranking of number 31, the highest ever for any Filipino player in tennis history. But here's what the statistics can't tell you. Here's what makes Alex Eala different from every other rising star on the women's tour. That's right, because at this point, it's about more than just the wins. It's about more than the rankings. It's about the people. In Abu Dhabi, Miami, Dubai, and Guadalajara stadiums fill up whenever Alex Eala plays. Not because of some aggressive marketing campaign, not because the WTA puts her on the biggest court every time. They fill up because of her Filipino fans who follow her with the loyalty of a heartbeat. They travel. They show up in city after city. They buy tickets they've never bought before. They cheer in a mix of languages with tears in their eyes. As one fan and online commenter put it so perfectly without a doubt, Alex Eala is the most famous tennis player right now. Not Iga Swiatek, not Coco Gauff. It didn't matter if she lost at the Miami Open or if she beat Madison Keys. She brought the Philippines into the global tennis conversation, a conversation the country had never been a part of before. And when she walked off the court in Dubai in February 2026, after a hard-fought loss to Jasmine Paolini, she didn't make excuses or deflect blame. She posted on Instagram, "My 3-week fight filled with pride and love has come to an end." She thanked a fellow Filipino-born WTA player. "It's an honor to play for people who see themselves in you." At the center of this storm was a young woman, talented, graceful, and because of it all, a target. Because that's the thing about rising that fast and shining that bright in the age of social media. You don't just attract fans, you also attract something else entirely. And for Alex Eala in early 2026, that something else was an online firestorm. Stay with us, because this is where the story takes a truly bizarre turn. Imagine waking up one morning to find your name attached to one of the wildest financial stories involving any sports figure ever. Not 10 million, not 50 million, but $1.6 billion. That's exactly what happened to Alex Eala in February of 2026, when at least 3 separate Facebook posts began circulating a story so incredible, so ridiculously over the top, that millions in the Philippines and beyond stopped scrolling and started sharing the claim that a billionaire from Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, one of the wealthiest men alive, and the owner of Manchester City Football Club, had personally offered Alex Eala a $1.6 billion deal. The supposed terms were just as wild: a $1 billion signing bonus, followed by $60 million annually for 10 years. In return, a move to Abu Dhabi to become the face of a new tournament called the Abu Dhabi Diamond Tennis Championship. The posts went viral. They were shared thousands upon thousands of times. They racked up tens of thousands of likes. The comment sections blew up with congratulations. Fans were emotional. Some were even moved to tears. People who had followed every match Eala played, every rise in the rankings, every hard-earned victory, felt like they were witnessing history being made all over again. Their national hero, a figure they saw as their own daughter, was being recognized by one of the world's most powerful people with a deal that dwarfed almost anything in the history of professional sports. There was just one problem. Not a single word of it was true. The fact-checking group Vera Files investigated and found no record of any such meeting between Sheikh Mansour and Eala. There was no official statement from Eala's camp, no announcement from the WTA. There was no confirmation from a single reputable news organization anywhere in the world because the entire story was a fabrication, conjured out of thin air with a generic photo beside a name and a number big enough to send imaginations running wild. And this wasn't even the first time it had happened. Around that same period, another story blew up online, racking up 13,000 reactions and over 200 comments claiming Eala had inked a $45 million deal with Wilson Sporting Products. That was completely false. Fact-checkers at Verifiles and Rappler shot it down, confirming that she was still under contract with Babolat. The story claimed Wilson had even created a custom racket for her engraved with the words Philippine icon. That was also a lie, just like the rumors about a deal with Emirates Airlines. Another fabricated story claimed she had signed with them. Then a rumor spread that she donated millions to the homeless population of Quezon City after her victory at the Eastbourne Open. It was all manufactured. An AI-generated picture of her hugging a man named Marco even went viral. The story was he was a cancer patient who had sold his motorcycle just to see her play. The photo was a fake, the man didn't exist. And more importantly, the creators of the image made one critical mistake. Alex Eala is left-handed, but the AI image depicted her playing tennis with her right hand. This misinformation machine had been running for months, but this was its most explosive creation to date. No, that was still to come. A billion-dollar scandal centered on a 20-year-old athlete who was just trying to play tennis and make her nation proud. But how did things get so out of hand? And who was really behind it all? This was no accident. It wasn't just some random prank pulled by a bored teenager. The campaign targeting Alex Eala for months was far more organized, deliberate, and profitable than most people could imagine. Journalists at Rappler and other outlets had been tracking it for some time. They uncovered a coordinated content network, a collection of tennis-themed Facebook pages with names like Flow Tennis and Tennis Mood. These pages had built huge followings not by reporting real tennis news, but by manufacturing emotional stories specifically about Alex. The formula was simple but effective. First, build an audience of genuine tennis fans, particularly Filipino fans, who were hungry for any news about their new national hero. Next, publish fake stories designed to generate strong emotional reactions, everything from touching narratives and outrage bait to phony announcements of massive endorsement contracts. These posts would generate hundreds of thousands of reactions, comments, and shares, and that's where the money came in. All of that engagement was then funneled to external websites covered in advertisements. The more clicks they got, the more money they made. We're talking thousands of pesos per post, potentially millions over time, depending on the traffic. The creators of these pages understood something profound and cynical about the internet in 2026. People don't always check the facts before they share something, especially if a story strikes an emotional chord, whether it's outrage, pride, or joy. The billion-dollar deal story tapped into the purest form of national pride. It was the idea that a young Filipina from Quezon City had become so powerful and internationally recognized that one of the wealthiest men on the planet was willing to spend a fortune on her, a sum larger than the annual GDP of many countries, all for her to represent his brand. The story was designed to be believed, and it worked. The collateral damage was immense, and real public figures were dragged into it. Veteran GMA network anchor Mel Tiangco had to go on 24 Horas, one of the most-watched evening news programs in the Philippines, to publicly deny fabricated claims that she had insulted Alex. A fake post alleged that Tiangco had called Eala vile and self-centered, and claimed that Eala had fired back with an emotional and scathing reply. None of it was true. In reality, Tiangco was measured and supportive, saying Filipinos value her. She deserves that and so much more. The fake controversy spiraled into a very real debate about structural bias in endorsements. People started asking why Eala's incredible breakthrough year, which included defeating Swiatek and Keys, a historic run to a WTA 1000 semi-final, and a career-high ranking, hadn't resulted in the major global sponsorships that a Western athlete with a similar record would have attracted. Meanwhile, the WTA was facing heat from a completely different direction. Organizers of the tournament in Dubai made a controversial scheduling choice, placing Eala's quarterfinal match against Coco Gauff as the first match of the night session instead of the final main event slot. To a casual fan, this might seem like a minor detail, but for Eala's enormous global fan base, it was a major misstep. For her supporters in the Philippines, this meant they would have to stay up until 1 in the morning just to watch her play. And considering Eala was arguably the biggest individual draw on the women's tour, the decision made, many question why the organization responsible for promoting women's tennis wasn't doing more to showcase its star. Tennis publications publicly called out the mistake. One outlet noted that while the WTA Tour and the Dubai event organizers don't have it easy, they couldn't afford such errors. But if they want to capitalize on Eala's skyrocketing popularity, the article continued, they can't keep making these kinds of mistakes. That sentiment was echoed loudly in the comment sections. It resonated across fan forums where people were already frustrated that the structures designed to elevate women's tennis often seemed to be the biggest obstacles. They were barriers preventing fans from seeing the sport's biggest stars. It was a perfect storm online, all sparked by a single billion-dollar lie. That lie opened a floodgate, and years of pent-up frustration, pride affection, and legitimate grievances came pouring out, creating a digital tempest with Eala right in the middle. But through all the noise, the lies, and the controversy, she finally spoke. And what she said changed the entire conversation. It would have been easy for Eala to get angry, to release a harsh statement through her management, or to personally clap back at the rumor pages. Lies were spreading about her life and her supposed business deals. After her quarterfinal loss to a Colombian opponent at the Women's Open, many other athletes might have reacted very differently to leaving the tournament. But Eala, who had left the Manila crowd devastated, walked straight to a practice court with her coach Joan Bosch to get to work on the things that needed fixing. There was no press conference filled with complaints, no emotional post on Facebook. She simply went back to her job. And when she did address the disinformation, her response was calm, measured, and in its quiet way, devastatingly direct. I really have no control over it, she said. I can't control what other people publish. I'm aware that a lot of fake news has been going around. It's worrisome, because sometimes I see those posts get a huge number of likes, and it becomes hard to know the difference when you see it on the internet. I understand that people can sometimes be misled. She paused, and then, without any resentment or drama, she offered the only advice she felt she could. I guess in my view, they should just seek out reliable news sources and try to focus on the trustworthy outlets. That's all I have to say. Just 5 sentences. But they carried the weight of someone who had watched a fictional version of herself be constructed online for months. A version of her that signed billion-dollar contracts, badmouthed veteran reporters, took donations from moguls, and just decided to keep playing tennis instead of engaging with the online circus. She also spoke to something deeper, a purpose that elevated her above the entire spectacle. I try my best because I'm aware, especially on a global stage, that I represent a very large number of people. It's a true privilege to have this community and send this support, rallying behind me. This 20-year-old woman ranked 31st in the world, the highest-ranking Filipino in the history of tennis, is carrying the hopes of millions, and she's doing it with grace. It made the entire fake news machine look even smaller by comparison. The actual facts of her business dealings told their own story. In February of 2026, Eala's career prize money totaled approximately $1.49 million. A significant amount for her age and career stage, but absolutely nowhere near the fantastical figures being fabricated online. Her real sponsors were Babolat, Nike, Globe Telecom, and the Bank of the Philippine Islands. And recently, a local deal with Juice represented authentic partnerships built on real achievements and genuine belief, not billion-dollar fictions or AI-generated myths, but real agreements with real people who had sincere faith in the athlete and her tangible accomplishments. They made every fabricated number seem pointless, beating Iga to reach a WTA. A 1,000 semifinal as a wild card, winning the Guadalajara 125, making debuts at the French Open, Wimbledon, and the U.S. Open, becoming the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match in the Open era and reaching a ranking of number 31. A career high. These were the billions that actually mattered. Not money, but hours. Not contracts, but history. This brings us to the most critical question. For her, for tennis, and for the world that is constantly trying to define her. What does all of this mean? There is a unique kind of fame that finds players who become icons before they have even fully arrived as competitors. Muhammad Ali had it. Serena Williams had it. Naomi Osaka carries it. Now in 2026, Eala carries it as well. It is the weight of being more than just a tennis player, of becoming a movement, not just an athlete, but a mirror in which an entire country sees its own potential reflected. The billion-dollar scandal and the flood of fake news that came with it were not just incidents. They were symptoms. Symptoms of a social media environment that prioritizes emotion over facts. Symptoms of a sports industry that has not yet built adequate safeguards to protect its rising stars from online exploitation. And symptoms of something older and more human, our tendency to mythologize people we love into legends before they've had the chance to simply be great on their own terms. Because that is what's at risk of being drowned out by the noise. Eala is already a great player. She doesn't need a $1 billion contract to be exciting to watch. She doesn't need AI-generated tales about meetings with billionaires or cancer patients to be inspiring. She has already exceeded all expectations. A country fell in love with her and with a sport they barely knew existed at this level. She showed up to city courts she had never visited and filled them meeting people who had driven for hundreds of miles just to cheer for her. The scheduling controversy at the WTA Dubai tournament told its own awkward story about how institutions can lag behind their own stars. When your biggest draw has to start the late-night session instead of headlining it, and when her fans are told to stay up until 1 in the morning just to watch her play, there's a problem in the sports machinery. Not a malicious one, not an intentional one, but a structural one. And it's something that has to be fixed because Eala's ascent isn't slowing down. She is 20 years old, ranked 31st on the planet, and is improving at a speed that even the most aggressive predictions failed to anticipate. After a lopsided 0-6-2-6 defeat to Coco Gauff in Dubai, Eala faced the loss with her characteristic honesty. She didn't shy away from the scoreline. "Of course, I think the gap between us was pretty obvious," she said in her post-game interview. "That's not to say that I'm that far away from these players." She spoke not with the disappointment of someone who was defeated, but with the focus of a person who had just pinpointed exactly what she needs to work on. She then posted on Instagram not a complaint or an excuse, but a note on the privilege of playing for the fans who carry her in their hearts. And just like that, the narrative returned to its very core, the love for Alex Eala, for honor and for purpose. The fake $8 billion deal went viral across the internet only to burn out within a matter of days. But Alex Eala's real story was being built point by point, match by match across 3 different cities and continents as an entire nation watched from home, a story that isn't going anywhere, which is why the WTA was unfazed by the controversy. The scandal didn't tell the WTA anything they didn't already know. It simply highlighted something they hadn't paid much attention to. Alex Eala has no need for manufactured narratives. She is the narrative. Every single time she steps on the court, the story is about her. And the internet, in all its chaotic, creative, and sometimes cruel glory, is inescapable. But it only served to confirm what tennis fans already knew. She is here, she is real, and she is only just getting started. So this is a question worth asking in the comments tonight. Music. In a world where fabricated billion-dollar contracts spread faster than actual Grand Slam victories, what does that reveal about the values we place on our athletes? Furthermore, is the system set up to protect emerging talents like Alex Eala, or is it built to exploit them? Alex didn't sign a billion-dollar deal. She didn't need to. Her commitment in every single game she's played is something far more binding. A promise to an entire nation that someone from the Philippines can stand on the world's biggest courts, not merely to compete, but to belong. The internet erupted with the false reports. When all the noise died down, Alex was exactly where she always is on the court, working, improving, and being real. That's the kind of story you don't have to make up. If you were moved by this story, and if you believe in the true story of Alex Eala, then do the real thing and hit the subscribe button right now. We delve into the stories behind the drama, the truth behind the scores, and everything that the headlines don't cover. New videos drop every week. Don't miss out on what's coming.